Stop me if you've heard this before, but Barcelona has gotten itself into financial trouble. I know. You're thinking, surely not Barcelona, but hey, don't shoot the messenger. All right. And I also am a firm believer that a lot of clubs are doing this, what we are going to talk about that Barcelona's been caught doing. It's not really Barcelona that's getting in trouble as much as a former president of Barcelona, a guy named, sorry, I forgot his middle name, Josep Maria Bartomeu. He was the guy who's kind of president of Barcelona before Joan Laporta. Of course, this is an elected position, and Bartomeu has ended up in trouble before. If you remember the scandal around Barcelona and the officials, that was Bartomeu, right? And it is as detailed in one of the articles that we're kind of looking at. He is responding to these things, and in his response, he's detailing the way he's responded to multiple allegations of wrongdoing, right? So Bartomeu is somebody that's ended up on the wrong side of the law, at least allegedly, on multiple occasions. Okay, he's the person that's at question. This is what he looks like in case, for some reason, you don't have a photographic memory of Barcelona presidents. And this is from Marca. There's a couple of sources on this, but the first one I've got is from Marca. And they say, according to El Periódico, which I believe is like a Spanish paper of some kind, there has been a report submitted by the Catalan police to the 16th Court of Instruction of Barcelona. So basically, kind of charges brought up in court on this, investigating Josep Maria Bartomeu. But what did he do? Alleged financial irregularities, questions around the 10 million euros paid by Barcelona to a company called Business Football España, or as we're going to refer to it for the rest of this, as BFE. Okay, now BFE got paid $10 million for intermediation operations between 2018 and 2020 that allegedly, as part of this report, corresponded to possible services that are unjustified, non-existent, or much higher than the market price. That is fancy business speak, by the way, for just saying they really can't figure out what Barcelona was paying for here, and that BFE is essentially some sort of, like, there's no proof of what they were getting paid for here. It is basically a shell company, for lack of a better term. Now, I am borrowing the phrase shell company from having watched TV series about people trying to hide monetary transactions, right? You run it through a shell company, the company looks great, you pretend that there's some actual business going on when in reality, there's not. And the Catalan police are basically saying they have found that, you know, the services provided by BFE are unjustified, non-existent, or much higher than the market price. Okay, so they didn't do anything to earn this money that Barcelona was paying them. So why is Bartomeu in potential serious legal trouble about this? The prosecutor believes that Bartomeu, who has several fronts in the courts, this is a translated article, so I'd imagine that means he has several court cases, and a whole other list of other defendants. It's not just Bartomeu, it's former CEO, former financial director, and so on, right? Made decisions usurping a decision-making capacity that corresponded to the board of directors, from whom they allegedly concealed the reality of the aspects of the operation. They are accused of the crime of disloyal administration, which I believe is just a really fancy translation for fraud, right? That they were involved in fraud to dodge taxes, to dodge prying eyes of the board of directors, or whatever, right? The former president of Barcelona has been hauled in because he has been accused of fraud, and clearly the Catalan police believe they have found enough evidence to roll with that. And the biggest part of this goes around the signing of Malcom. You might not remember, he actually plays for Al Hilal now. He was signed in 2018 for 41 million euros, I think it was, by Barcelona. Okay, from Bordeaux, who, shout out, they're now in the 4th division or whatever. Then that had a huge alleged irregular transactions, right, involved in that transfer. They've confirmed, the Catalan police have confirmed an obvious modification to the employment contract between Barca and the Brazilian after his signing. So, right, the initial fee of his contract was 10 million euros over 3 years. So basically 3.3 repeating euros for per year for 3 years. Agreed on the 24th of July, 2018. That was replaced after the contract was announced with a payment of 1.5 million euros to the player and a payment of 8.4 million euros to BFE. Now, this is basically 10 million euros again, but why would you want to send the money through BFE, right? This is 8.4 of the 10 million euros that Barcelona paid this company over a 2-year period. But they were technically paying this company for their intermediary efforts in the transfer. Now, obviously, I am not somebody that's ever been involved in a transfer between clubs, but I can tell you it probably looks a little fishy. If you're paying the player 1.5 million euros and you're paying the company that handled the intermediary efforts 8.4 million, something doesn't look right there. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, well, gee willikers, Batman, did Malcom get screwed? Is Malcom the person that got rug pulled here? Maybe he's the person that made the complaint. No, not necessarily. The initial agreement involved a personal income tax withholding of close to 50%. I mean, obviously, that's, it's a significant tax bill. It's the type of tax bill that gets levied on high-level professional footballers like Malcom all over the place. It's another reason why guys choose to go play in Saudi or Miami. There's no income tax in the state of Florida. Shout out to my home state. It's part of the reason for, the chaos in Grand Theft Auto 6 and everything. But, that's nice sometimes. But 50%, with this change, the Treasury received less from the transfer. So basically, if you change where the money is going through, it sounds like you're just paying less tax. That's what it sounded like. The reason to funnel this money through the company is because it's just a different direction the money is going that is handled in a different legal way where you'd lose less of that money. It's not a personal income anymore. It's going into this company. Now, there is nothing in any of the sources I can find about this situation about how much Malcom got out and who else might have gotten something out. Because you think about it, if Malcom's sitting there and he was going to get 5, and now all of a sudden you give him like 6 or 7, he's probably happy with that. Somebody else could be getting some money too. And that's part of this problem. That's part of this whole process. Bartomeu is basically being accused, along with these other guys, is maybe lining his pockets a little bit when finding a way to circumvent all of this. He went on to stress in his response that he did not receive any personal financial benefit during his tenure as president. But anytime you're in a position where you have to stress that, it's being accused, right? It's being lobbed towards you. Hey, did you line your pockets out of this? Because all this, there's a lot of money going into this company and nobody really seems to know where it was going. Okay, it goes in, the contract with Malcom changes, the money goes into the company, the money gets shit out somewhere. We would assume. Other irregular transactions include a $1.7 million settlement the club paid lawyer Gonzalo Franco for signing Neymar, and a €1.5 million settlement to Esportiu Laeta for allegedly an inconvenience caused by construction work. So they have peeled back the Barcelona books here. The Catalan police, I don't know how or when, they got their hands on the books. And they're going through various transactions to a random lawyer, to a company that was filed as a reference, like, well, this was for inconvenience caused by construction work or something. Right? They're going back through all of that, and they're trying to diagnose where money might have been moving illegally. But the one big one they've nailed is the Malcom transfer. Right, they seem to have Barcelona nailed dead to rights. Based off everything that I'm reading, they've proven that the contract changed. They know this amount of money went to a company that they can't really figure out what that company was doing, and the vast majority of this happened around Malcom's transfer. The irony, of course, being Malcom didn't really go on to be a huge success at Barcelona. Right, there's a reason that some of you watching this video probably don't even know who he was. I'd kind of forgotten about him. I had to look him up to find out that he was at Al Hilal. The findings suggest that these actions were carried out deliberately to conceal the real cost of the transfer and benefit financially through inflated intermediary fees. Of course, this was at a time when, I can't remember exactly what the financial fair play stuff looked like in 2018 in Spain, but people were starting to pay more attention to that sort of thing. And this would have been a way to try and circumvent those potentially prying eyes that are going to tell you, hey, maybe you shouldn't be spending that much money. As a result of the irregularities, the current administration, led by Joan Laporta, was later forced to make a preemptive tax settlement to avoid a financial penalty from the Spanish Treasury. So it has come out now that Barcelona has had to make a payment, basically a preemptive tax settlement, so that they don't get railroaded by the Spanish Treasury. And that is why it's just these former executives that are being brought up basically on fraud charges in this court, while Barcelona is not actually in danger here. Because Barcelona, to its credit, came back, and I'm sure under some sort of threat, because you don't want to give money away in any other situation, right? They come out and go, yeah, they paid the rest of the tax settlement, took care of it. Joan Laporta has washed his hands of this nonsense, right? But Barcelona in that era, kind of right before and after COVID, is still coming up in the news, and we are still learning about new weird shit that they got up to. This is just the latest one.